And I want to do that because my consciousness shifts quite a bit. Well, as soon as I start the recording, I'm no longer operating as Scott Lemriel on Earth. I start operating as, well, I have a name in the upper worlds, and I start operating as a being who co creates with wonderful, masterful teachers. And so I shift to being out in space along with others, and then I help get you up there. So I'm there already. At this point, my body starts going into the trance state we call sleep. Even if I have my eyes open, and I close them most of the time for these journeys as well. But I have to monitor the zoom and I have to monitor different things, so they will come open once in a while. But it doesn't mean I've shifted from being out in space. I'm still there. I've learned how to move between points very instantaneously. Back to Earth, back to there, back to here, up to there. I'm trying to get you folks, here's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get all of you to remember how to see places and planets and beings and dimensions that you once knew how to see, that over a long period of time, several billions of years and many lives, gradually the ability to do this was either given up or suppressed by yourself for some reason or another over a long period of time. Or beings caught you and do this thing that they do in suppressing your ability to remember who you are. That's where implants come into this. But implant removal and implant reviews, like the primary implant, is just the first step. After that, we go on the long distance journeys like we're doing today, because that's where the higher faculties that you need to become and be or return to being a co-creator with the source itself, that's where that comes into it on these journeys. To gain back those higher faculties, we have to go above the void, back towards the source, at least to the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, at least to Satnam's realm, the realm of the Atma, where we came from. At least there. Because then what we're doing, any negative nature we have, any implants, any subconscious stuff for billions of years is turned off by friends of ours from other worlds. They know how to do this. They're Galactic Alliance personnel, sometimes master teachers. Some of these master teachers are male and female couples. Some of them are single, but in this case, there's always a couple that will hang around or stand behind you and make sure that nothing negative goes with us. It just gets turned off with your body when it goes to sleep. And all we're doing, because of my voice and the way this works, is helping you to go out of the body like you do every night. Except this is fully conscious. This is out of body travel. It's not astral travel. Many people think of it that way because they don't know better. There is no such thing as astral travel. If you find yourself in the astral plane in a dream flying around, it means as an Atma, you have become awake, running that body in that plane, and the memory is brought back to your body on Earth. But it doesn't take place here. It's not productive to, in a sense, pull apart an astral transparent body from the physical and call it astral travel. Really what a person is doing is moving themselves as an Atma from a focus on the physical body to the astral dimension. Now this work could take on greater dynamics, but it would mean certain things would have to change or awaken on Earth and come to this planet, which is underway. But it would mean that I could guide people to various places in the astral, causal, mental, and etheric planes and get them more awake, because you're running bodies in all those planes right now, including the one you're running on Earth, as a single Atma, as a single being. This is really incredible when you start to wake up to this on Earth and you realize how dynamic you are, what an Atma really does, how multidimensional it is. Then you begin to understand that how you came from Source as Source pure energy, the pure omnipresent living power in all of creation. You're made of it. You exist in it. You float in it. We travel in it. We move in it. And we have our being. People get so locked into focusing inside Earth's atmosphere growing up because of the way institutions and religions and politics are. They don't think outside the box. They don't imagine beyond. Writers for feature films think outside the box because they imagine when they write seeing things in other places, whether it's in the past or another planet or bad guys versus good guys and all that stuff. This stuff comes from parallel dimensions where this stuff actually happens somewhere. Not the Earth where we are, because we all know this Earth has not been invaded. It's been protected from that kind of thing. But these kinds of things have taken place in parallel dimensions in the physical universe, on other worlds and other world systems. There's 144 parallel dimensions in the physical universe. That's a lot. It's not infinite. There's a limit to them. And the same in the astral and causal. And this means that there are many worlds of different molecular time rates, one above the other, that are explored by more advanced extraterrestrial spacefaring races. They know how to move ships between them. They do not take ships into the astral plane. There's a barrier there. You have to actually go out of your body, go to the astral plane, and kind of run or merge with the astral body there to play in ships in the astral plane. It's very complex and very wide. The causal and mental, they have the same thing. Galaxies are brighter, bigger, bodies are lighter, less dense, and so forth and so on. Lives are longer. So you're actually living lives right now that are kind of immortalized already in the astral, causal, mental, and etheric planes, particularly the etheric plane. You could be there for millions of years in Earth terms and never wish to leave. It's paradisical. It just means that you're running a body so refined with the hue, it's more transparent, like pictures you've seen of etheric beings with chakras all lit up and they're transparent. People get these images from real places. They don't know it. Most authors who write books and produce feature films are actually like scribes. Star Wars came from 5 million years ago, far, far away in another galaxy. That's how Lucas wrote it. And I know from as an author, you get into a trance state where you're really out of your body looking at this stuff down the past time track. And then you write stories and become billionaires because it's great entertainment. The idea of the Force is really the idea of the omnipresent hue. They called it midichlorians in Star Wars, little microscopic creatures that communicate with us between the omnipresent Force and us. Those don't exist. There's no midichlorians, it's direct. It's the Atma, you, hovering above a body or around it, sending an energy beam to the pineal gland, the center of the brain, that runs the body and gives it a charge to get up and move and walk and heart beat, lungs breathe and all that. Otherwise, a human body just doesn't even activate. It just withers away and dies. It has to have us running it, or it doesn't work. This is true for animal and plant and sea life too, particularly sea life and animal and mammal life. They have Atmas running them as well. Now, the reason I bring this up is not to tell anybody that they have to be like a vegetarian or something. I am, but it's to let them know that we are supposed to respect and help other forms of life that we claim we love evolve. That was our original purpose in coming into the lower worlds. If you're a zebra, a giraffe, or a whale, we're supposed to be helping those Atmas. In other worlds that are normal, they're telepathic. Most of them have vocal cords, and nobody kills them. This is not the way we're meant to be. Changing a world like Earth into something that's real, that is normal, compared to like other worlds out there, is going to take, quite literally, a vast host of beings not from Earth to intervene here and gradually help people recover. Because people on Earth don't remember who they are, what they are, how they got here, what they used to know. They think this is my only life, I'm going to heaven. No. There is no such thing as a heaven that exists for believers in faith who claim they're saved. I don't care what the religion is. And then they sit there their whole life and will not change at all. How they eat or anything else, they do not change because they believe they're already saved. Why would they change? They don't have to. Some religions, maybe Buddhism's a little more far along in this way. I think some of the monks are vegetarians, probably. I don't know that, or how they are in Thailand, but in some parts of the world. And they generally travel between here and the mental plane, which is traveling up a number of higher dimensions. That's pretty evolved. But they don't generally go above the void into the higher worlds because The format of that religion says there's nothing beyond the void. This is a problem. It was my privilege to guide a few Buddhist monks on these journeys beyond the void, because it helps them understand what's possible. And with their discipline, they can go much further, and that can help the whole world. So this is telepathic. It means I'm not just sharing with you verbal information. No. I'm actually a channel of the omnipresent power, the Hue, with other very masterful beings. So it actually turns this awareness on in you as I'm speaking. That's part of the journey. Preparing you to have the understanding awakened so that when you go where we go, you have a greater understanding and comprehension, the ability to simply know things. You cannot become a knower instead of a believer through a series of steps up a ladder like initiations. Those end once you step into the worlds above the void. And then we have to chart our own course. With Satnam and other beings, we have to contribute co-creatively in those upper worlds. If we expect to return there and be established there and be free beings, not be trapped in unconsciousness, not run bodies without awareness of how we got there, then we have to contribute something back to the source. Each one of you, just like me or Perry, has a unique energy signature as a spherical Atma. Unique in all the universe. There's only one of you. And when it goes back to source, it just naturally contributes its unique experience over billions of lives back to that source. And it helps that source change the way the lower worlds are run. It has been relying on us to return. And the problem is, people in the lower worlds have not been returning in hundreds of billions of years. So everything stays static. It stays the same. Sadistic lower worlds, good and bad, torture this, torture that, kill this, war that. It might be entertaining to some beings, but the only beings I know of that find that entertaining are tyrants, or very negative extraterrestrial races, or beings in other planes below the void that are negative, and there are many. Wars and police forces exist in the astral, causal, even in the mental plane. You get to the etheric, very little negativity mixed with matter, or what you would call molecular energy there. So, but it's like a place you're supposed to develop to and then have the inspiration to go across the void back home. And it takes some work to get people in the etheric plane of body form that's run by an Atma that's got bodies in all the planes, to get them to want to see what's beyond the void, to know themselves completely. A masterful being knows that they're running all the bodies in all the planes, if they have them. And they're not unconscious while they're running them. They're masterful simply because they aren't trapped in the illusion they're a body. They enjoy them, they run them, but they don't think they are one. This is the difference. We've never been a physical body ever in several hundred billion years on any planet anywhere, no matter how evolved it is, transparent, levitation, you name it. We have never been one of the genetic bodies that were developed so that Atmas like you could run them and gain experience in different planes, different dimensions, different parallel dimensions. This is something we're supposed to be consciously aware of because we are capable of it. That's important. I gotta make sure that's off because we don't want any interruptions. There we go. The whole thing about what this work represents out in the multidimensional creation is conscious awareness. And that comes about only through direct experience. Faith and belief are supposed to lead to a point where we can all leap into the hue and trust and go further. Because when you're floating around in an omnipresent golden white light, you have no floor under your feet. Nothing you can stand on. It's not the whole thing of false security, of walking in a body on the ground in gravity, is not there. So we have to recover our ability to trust ourselves as spherical energy beings, that are not DNA or matter or molecules or atoms, and to be able to move around in the omnipresent power. Spaceships from high advanced worlds move through that omnipresent space out there that appears black to us when we look at Hubble Space Telescope images or any of that, because human eyes on Earth, two-stranded DNA eyes, normally cannot see into a high enough frequency so it appears black to people, even in photographs. When we get out of the body and we go where we're going, it appears like that is all the white golden light everywhere. And it's just vast. Little galaxies far apart from each other create electromagnetic fields turning on their axis. And the field around them, what we call the toroidal or zero-point energy field, or the aura, is what allows them to float where they are in place in this omnipresent power that's below them, around them, up above them, extending out further than you can perceive. And it's the same way in the astral and causal mental planes. We know this is a multi-dimensional creation. This thing we call God, this supreme being stuff that's thrown around on Earth by people who don't know a thing about what they're talking about. They don't understand it. They just pray to it. They're told to pray to it, and then they're saved. But there is no heaven in the lower worlds that are permanent, no matter if it's any particular religious belief system. These semi-heavens exist where people go temporarily, but they're not allowed to stay there. And there's a reason for this. Eventually they're moved out or kicked out or encouraged to leave and go back to Earth and get another body, usually with no memory, which is wrong. Because if you have the wisdom of the universe in you as a being, and it's awake, when you go to somewhere like Earth running a body, you want that wisdom awake in you so you can make the right decisions from the wisdom of all your background. You come to an Earth with no memory, you're going to make nothing but mistakes because you don't have access to what you should know to make those right decisions. Even myself, I rely on Satnam entirely. Not as a burden to him, but I've surrendered my own will to someone like that because he's a master teacher, personal guide. But he doesn't have a physical body. He doesn't have a body in the lower planes. He doesn't have any negative nature. And yet he runs the first major division above the void, what people would call heaven if they could get there, certainly. But there are no physical bodies there. The bodies that are made of light that look physical, even dressed, are mock-ups. They're projections from the white core of the Atma. It's good to know this. It's good to be aware of it before we go on the journey, because it means you're creating an anchor. It's a negative pole. I don't mean negative and positive like good and bad, but it's a grounding point for the positive pole, which is above the void where you normally actually live. And it creates a doorway so that we can bring back this energy of ourselves that is not negative in nature and never has been, and superimpose that, bring that down over the body on Earth, that consciousness, that brain, that aura, that energy field that surrounds it, so we can bring enlightenment to the Earth consciousness. Then we become a doorway, a channel for this pure energy, this consciousness that people pray to, they call divine spirit. But they don't know what it is. They don't consciously know what it is they're praying to. It's a belief system. That is not the proper end result of where faith and belief should lead. It should go by some miracle. It should cross paths with the first sound behind creation we know of as the first half of the word human, and then it should leap back into the ability to leave the body and travel the multiverse by direct experience. This is how we become enlightened. There is no other way. It can't just be dropped on your head while you're sitting in a restaurant, unaware and unconcerned about changing anything, because it can't be dropped on your head. There's not a master teacher in the whole creation that will drop God realization or enlightenment on your head. We have to co-creatively put our own effort into reacquiring this, waking it up. It's long dormant, asleep in people on Earth. You got 8 billion people on this planet, and maybe 25 million or 30 million out of 8 billion that are potentially boots on the ground. And there's some of them, like you, are boots on the ground right now because you're aware of it. So it will come through you. This is not a person. It's not a being controlling you like psychics, like you're a channel for some discarnate being somewhere. I do not work with Turellian or any of the Galactic Alliance or the Master Teachers or Satnam or Agam Purusha or any of these beings as their channel. They would never tolerate that. It would be breaking the highest spiritual law to do so. But they will work telepathically with me in communication being to being. That's true co-creation. They don't take us over. That's what tyrants do. No, you don't want that. So we become more aware that we can communicate and be communicated to by such beings because they're telepathic. The truth is, so are you. You always have been. Whether you know it now or very confidently or not is not the issue. The fact is that long ago, before we even started playing in the lower worlds, we were all telepathic. And we still are. So when we go on this journey, there is an energy field that surrounds your physical body. In psychic circles, they would call it the aura. Or they would say it's a thin band of different colors close to your body. But that's not the true shape of this field around your body. It has a spherical shape. It's quite large. It comes out the bottom of the spine, the chakra, and goes in the top of the head. It looks exactly like the electromagnetic field that surrounds the planet Earth, which you can Google and see for yourself. If you do a little homework, you'll see exactly what it looks like. That's made of the hue, too, in a structure in a certain form. And because it moves out the South Pole and goes in the North Pole, a planet can float in space in this great hue. It can go around a sun. A sun can go around a bigger sun. All those stars and planets can revolve around a nucleus, the center of a galaxy. And the field around the galaxy, coming out the South Pole and going in the North, is the same as the one around you and the Earth. Hovering above your head near the ceiling as an apno, looking down on your body, is done by simple daydreaming. This means, just like you can easily picture going to the store, and then your body gets up and goes and gets in a car and goes to the store. But it doesn't happen until you first visualize it. And visualization is not made up in the human brain like people think. That limits them to being grounded to the earth and never get out of it. The imagination, what we call imagination, is the ability of the Atma running a body to see into the multiverse, see what it's imagining. Not just down the street to the store, to a beach, or get on an airplane. Off planet, other worlds, other beings, other dimensions, higher realities. This is the capability an Atma has. Each one of you has always had this. It's not something you will learn in the infinite future. Oh, I got to immortalize my body. You've already done that long ago, many times. And for some reason, right, in galactic history, we ended up vulnerable to be caught stuffed in a body or compelled to run a body on Earth with little or no former memory intact. People grow up on this world thinking that's normal because they don't have any other thing to compare it to. It's not normal. It's not natural. It's as unnatural as hell itself to be stuck running a body with no memory. How you got here, what you knew before this life. You folks have been around for billions of years. You guys didn't come out of the womb of Prime Creator, overnight last week. No. And no being sat up there on a throne and made you with a magic wand. There's Poom and there's Lee. Boom, there they are. No. We were the Atmas in the source, right? Circling around that center before the lower worlds of time and space were even built. Which means, truly, we all had a hand in constructing the lower worlds together, collectively. Source or Prime Creator is a focus point, a nexus, a place that has a form that looks much larger than we are, but similar in all these teardrop shapes, all these layers of white core. We look like it. There's just more of these layers in it. And it is a place where all atmas running all forms and all bodies and all planes and all dimensions have a connecting point. And it creates a kind of consciousness and energy that you can speak with. So people call it the Supreme Being, but it doesn't consider itself that way. And it never commanded us to worship it. Be like worshiping yourself. So, but what it does insist on, and what we all insist on from the beginning, is that we understand the source by direct experience and respect it. Because when we're respecting it, we are respecting every atma in all of creation, every way through time and space, through the upper worlds and the lower worlds, everywhere. And when we go and experience other worlds and other beings, we naturally respect them because we're coming from that understanding. It is required for us to be free beings and co-creators with the source, which is our destiny. We're meant to do that. That we respect all life. And to respect all life, we have to know it personally. That's what these journeys are for. To get you started into recovering your ability to see and work with beings, not on Earth, not from Earth, not trapped on Earth. Because such beings, having not grown up here, are the beings that can help us get free of stuff we don't even know is there, subconscious stuff. They can see it. Like a candle in a dark room, they can see it. They don't react to it. They don't have subconscious minds. That is why they do the work of removing secondary implants. And in my guided work with them, I am able to guide people to see what's in a primary implant. We don't remove it. That's part of the subconscious mind. It goes back billions of years. That would kill your body on Earth if that was done, truly. No. To gain mastery, we need to see what's in it. What got us killed and put here? Yet people are terrified to remember that. Because it's all negative. It's fear. It's torture and death stuff. So it takes a while to get people up to a point where they can look into it. And you know, when I take people now, not just me, by these other masterful beings that I work with, into primary implant review journeys, they're actually, by the time they're prepared and seeing enough, they actually tell themselves, they can see how they were killed. And they have to describe it. And this makes the person their memory. And that negative thing that says we'll kill you, we'll eat you if you ever remember this again, tyrants do that, misusing science, of course. It becomes a memory. And once it's a memory, it's not subconscious. It cannot misdirect you unless you indulge in looking in the negative and deliberately turn it on. But once it's conscious, it becomes a memory. And then you can gain mastery over such things. Mastery over the lower worlds of time and space, over any negative nature. And the reason for this is because right now, none of us has a negative nature in the Atma anywhere, and we never have. Negative nature is implanted in mental image pictures and things in the electromagnetic field that surrounds us, through which we see the universe distorted, subconsciously manipulated in fear. That's what keeps people from leaving their bodies. And what's so funny, ironic about it is people leave their bodies every night anyway. They just don't know they're doing it. They're not brought up on a planet where their parents and society encourage them and show them how to do this when they're babies. So you have to learn it as an adult. When you, for some reason, cross paths with the Hue, the first sound behind creation, first half of the word human, you had the courage to find it. I just put it out there. But it was you that found the courage to step beyond these subconscious terrors and look into it anyway. So which means you had the courage to do it and the power to do it despite what was done to you. Because in reality, we have this mastery over the lower worlds of time and space. But you were manipulated, one experience or another, or 1,000 experiences, or 1,000,000, to doubt this and fear it. When you doubt something and fear it, the omnipresent power, which does not work with negative nature, will not do anything with you. Negative and positive energies in the lower dimensions of time and space are a kind of an illusion where the one energy splits off into two currents and they're supposed to revolve around each other, like the yin and yang symbol. One appears as black, one white, little dots in them, or two fishes circling around each other. There's supposed to be a golden white energy around that, the outer circumference, the sphere, that keeps those two forces in harmony. But once they get split, then we start thinking positive and negative, imagining and seeing things in the universe, negative and positive. Splits the consciousness in half, grounds the energy to earth, and people can't get off the planet, not consciously. So the real secret is to join those two forces in harmony, not have them fight each other in opposing forces, good and bad, and go back into the source energy itself. So the journey we're going on goes back to source energy because we rub shoulders with it. We actually rub shoulders with it again. We are made of it, and this rubs off on us. When we meet master teachers in the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, or we meet silent mentors, just the most evolved beings there are, who normally had nothing to do with us as Atmas in the last several hundred billion years. They just maintain the whole structure. They're mechanics of creation. They are too changing. So in the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, we have the opportunity to rub shoulders with them. As Atmas, they are kind of a unique type of Atma, much larger than us, more layers, similar to the source itself, Prime Creator. And they don't have negative nature. They've never had physical bodies. They could manifest one and walk up to you and shake your hand, give you a Coke, and walk away, and you wouldn't even know it was them. They could be a fly on your table carrying out a mission. They have unlimited power, absolute freedom. Because they have no negative nature, they are trusted with this. These are the beings we rub shoulders with. Bear that in mind, because you are going to bring some of that energy back with you to Earth at the end of this journey. That's the good deed. That's the fun part. So when you're near the ceiling looking down on your body, what are we doing? We're just daydreaming. Everybody knows how to do that. They just don't realize it's not coming from their brain. The brain, the gray matter in the brain, is a multi-billion circuited neuron center for controlling the complex processes of the body. But the being that runs it not as part of it, but through the pineal gland in the center of the human brain. It has rods and cones in it and a liquid. It's supposed to be clear, so it can see into different dimensions. You can bring back this information when you leave your body at night and store it in the electromagnetic field that surrounds your body, not in the brain. So when you look out and you start imagining what was my journey like to Satnam's realm, you see an image of it out there in the electromagnetic field. It's not an engram. It just shows you what it looks like so you can focus on it, and the omnipresent hue that surrounds us takes us there. It is the one power that moves all things. It is the one living force that manifests whatever we imagine. When we imagine, we're actually seeing something somewhere that exists. We're not making it up in our brain. Understand, the information, the stuff that's revealed in these 4 books, The Savior's Agenda, The Emerald Doorway, Guardians of the Ancient One, and Journey to the Center of the Universe, is not a journey to the center of the physical universe. So naturally, we want to make them into feature films, commercially successful. And there's a process to go along to get that done. This is in the beginning from this work from day one. That industry has great potential to bring a great volume of the hue into this planet's atmosphere, which is what we want. We only need 150 million people worldwide that are boots on the ground, so pretty much aware of this, out of 8 billion to change the face of an entire world. It's not a big percentage. We're not there yet, but we're heading in that direction. So when you're up near the ceiling, you're floating between 2 other beings. One's a male, one's a female. They're showing you a body form, looks to be about 36, got a Galactic Alliance uniform on it. It's got a little galaxy, a silver galaxy in the right chest area, I guess. A 4-sided, gold-sided pyramid with a quartz crown above the the big bulge in the center of the galaxy, and above that, in a triangular formation, 3 cobalt blue stars. So that's a galactic alliance symbol. And it's really a symbol for multidimensional reality. Not just like Zetronomy 1, the headquarters world of the Galactic Alliance, which is located near the central core, not in it, near the core of the galaxy. There's also higher levels of Zetronomy 1 in parallel dimensions. It's just big, mind-bogglingly big. And more advanced races, including many of them human, know how to travel and craft between them. So the Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds, which has more than 450 million spacefaring races involved, many world systems, out of 450 million world systems, not one system, are located in a number of levels within the physical universe before you get to the astral plane. Now, this is the kind of thing that advanced races, ancient, billions of years old, that aren't on Earth today, know how to do. So you can imagine what they could do in sharing with us should they ever be asked to land all over the planet. You can imagine what would happen. The energy they are, that they consider normal, you would consider them like angels or masters. You'd want to prostrate yourself on the ground. This would be wrong. They just channel a much higher energy. So we need to get our energy up to where we can walk shoulder to shoulder with them, because that's part of what disclosure has to do. If people are scared to death and they're biting their teeth looking at all these ships land all over the planet, at least they have enough courage shaking in their boots to go up and greet someone from another world instead of run in terror, which they would do right now should ships land here. They'd be shooting each other and everybody else because of subconscious, negative, misdirected drives. So we want to help people get rid of these fears, this core fear they have about leaving the body, about death. Get over this core fear that they're not a body, they've never been one. Get that awake, and you can awaken the entire being. Get that process started, and we're well on our way to recovering what we were made to forget before we were born here with no memory. Because that is most certainly not normal. And every one of you knows this. Down deep, everybody does. It's not normal. Earth is one of the planets that has life, 100 years if you're lucky? It's a planet that has the least length of life of any that I've ever been on. Most humans have 4-stranded DNA. And those that have 2 that are on Earth are far more evolved than people here, because they know they're not the body they're running. Big difference in IQ and intelligence. And when you're near the ceiling, hovering there is a sphere of light between these 2. You're seeing a body form that you're projecting because your negative subconscious mind is turned off right now. You're seeing a body form that looks to be about 36, well-dressed, perfectly handsome if you're a man, perfectly beautiful if you're a female, flawless. And the being standing beside you is showing you the same thing, and the body forms they're showing you actually look that age in their real bodies they have, asleep right now in a seat in a lounge on the Emerald Star Cruiser stationed in the ice rings that circle the planet Saturn. Space is occupied, folks. Highest classified people know 80 races of extraterrestrials have visited here. Some of them, very few, actually interact with them. Fear of one of these kind races coming and taking us over is the only thing that's kept presidents in this country and elsewhere from full disclosure. Full disclosure is not just telling people extraterrestrials exist. Hell, everybody knows that. Just watch a space movie, Star Wars or anything else. Dune, Avatar. Where do you think these people came up with these ideas? They never learned it in school here. It's not in their brain. They can't make that stuff up with what they learned in college on Earth. I couldn't make this stuff up. I couldn't create it to save my life. It had to come from my journeys and adventures which I had the skill to write down, put in book form that will benefit people on earth. And I had a lot of help. There was not much support, and still isn't on this earth, for people being enlightened, truly. It's frowned upon, or people are afraid of it. All the gurus that have come out of India and everyone I've ever investigated generally, mostly do not know about the sound that will take them across the void. They know about om and ooh, sounds you can make with the lips without moving your tongue. But there's a fourth one, and it's designed to only vibrate the cranium upwards so you can go all the way back to source, and that is Hu. They don't know it. They don't teach it. At least yet. A few teachers out there that pretty much are not exposed to the public very much, who teach this, do it privately, generally, with people. There's a few organizations that know about it and teach it, but they are not possessors or owners of it. It is not patentable. You can't own it or possess the omnipresent power. It'll kick your ass if you try, sooner or later. It just will, because we can't. It's like grabbing the air. Try to grab the air with your hand. You can't do it. But some people think the power that has been granted to them or that they wield on this earth belongs to them. It does not. This planet is not owned by people who reside and run bodies on it. It's owned by something, if such a thing exists, by something above the void, who does not possess things. It is the force behind and supporting everything. And we are that force. Isn't it funny how people are? People on Earth are ancient. No human being, any race represented on this planet, whether they're Thai or Burmese or Japanese or Chinese or African American or Caucasian, some people call tall Nordics or tall whites, come from other worlds. They all originated in other planetary star systems out in our galaxy or other galaxies long ago. Human beings represented on Earth are not new. None of them evolved on Earth out of the primordial seas or from dinosaurs that turned to birds that became suddenly humans sprang out of the ground. No. That's not it. Human beings are one of the oldest species out there. Most of them are far more evolved, even genetically, than we are here. Which means the genetics was altered on people on Earth a long time ago and passed on genetically. Live a short life. You're controllable that way. Tyrants who did that maybe live 800 years when the humans they suppress live thousands. They're jealous. They're cowards. You have to understand this. They do not exist in our solar system on Earth anymore. Little gray abductions were stopped, and a few reptilians that were on Earth in classified bases were moved off this planet, out of this solar system more than 25 years ago. 26. And yet people still talk and think that they're still taking place. And they aren't. This is preparation. These beings hovering beside you point upward. You find yourself in space, in a circle of beings surrounding Turellian, who's standing in the middle of us as a central focal point. 18 feet tall, showing you a body form he had over 1 billion Earth years ago. The Say race, as a race of beings, were initial creators of life on world systems in both the astral and physical dimensions. Great spacefaring travelers that seeded genetic life forms and brought them up to a higher level till they were spacefaring cultures. so that Atmos could run them and have experience in the lower dimensions of time and space. And then they vanished. They disappeared into the background for a long time to see what we would do with it. I think we all know what that is. What we did with it wasn't what was expected or what we would have wished to happen. They've recently returned to the scene because something changed in them that came from the upper realities to motivate them to take more regard and care for the younger races they once helped form, body forms and Atmos running them, and help to get people to remember all that stuff they were made to forget. In space, if you look around us here, you can see the Earth with its polar ice caps and its oceans and land, the barren moon, you know, all the meteor craters on it, no atmosphere, does not turn at all on its axis as it orbits the planet, always showing everybody on Earth the same one side of the moon. That's not normal, it's not natural. Earth's gravity and other planetary gravity should have it turning somehow, but it doesn't move at all, which means something was done to it. And a history you don't remember. It wasn't just one moon around this Earth long ago. The beings that were standing beside you or behind you or in front of you back on Earth near the ceiling are standing beside you now. A couple for each one of us. They're simply helping keep any kind of negativity turned off for this journey. That's what they do. Easy stuff for them. Piece of cake. Effortless. They don't remove some of that stuff because, okay, let's put it, there's something underway, so at some point, what we call a subconscious mind in people will be neutralized and replaced what is called with the U expansion ray. Carries a certain wisdom from the source that provides beings with the wisdom and knowledge, once they're recovered, to never be vulnerable or trapped again. One-way ticket. It's not two-way. It's one way. Etta and Din are hovering above Ambassador Torellian with their tails glowing out behind them, standing on their strong legs with their individual big toe and little toes, just like a human. Their hands with a big thumb and little fingers, just like a human, just wiggling them at us, kind of cute and funny like. The long little snout, their big bulbous blue eyes, their pale green, greenish pale skin. It's not wet like a salamander. They're not a lizard. They stand upright on their hind legs. There's an Atma hovering above them. They're master teachers. They're silica-based genetics, not carbon. And they aren't human. So you might as well meet such beings because you got to get used to this stuff. The universe is big. Most of the beings in the Milky Way are benevolent and kind and very much more advanced than Earth. A few tyrant races have been kind of less sealed in their own solar systems, and they're going through a change right now as we speak. So they will no longer be tyrants. What was done to them long ago to make them what they were, what they did to us, was far more terrible than what was done to you. When you understand this, like other Galactic Alliance personnel, yeah, they're vicious tyrant killers, or they were, but at least we don't get caught up in revenge because that just traps us in more negative stuff. Our job is to help change things. Up higher above in space, in this white golden light that surrounds us, which has a humming sound to it, the Atma hears this and sees this clearer than you'd see or hear sound on Earth in its atmosphere. And the whole physical universe makes a kind of a soft rumbling sound, kind of a almost like gentle thunder with no lightning everywhere around us. And it's coming through Satnam, who's standing up in space, high above Et and Din, just standing there, below an hourglass-shaped vortex made of a golden white light. It's a higher form of the hue, the same as the one in space, except it's from the higher worlds. And it's coming down through Satnam's big, beautiful Atma hovering above this being. He does not have a physical body. He's showing you a prototype body that looks human, just like we're able to do. 2 gold bracelets on his upper arms, little white tunic dress from his waist down to his ankles. Strongly built, bare-chested, bald, bronze skin, golden eyes. This is the form he chooses to show us, but this is the being that is the Purusha of the entire Atma plane, first division of the higher worlds above the void, beyond it. This is who we once knew and met with before we embarked on journeys in the lower worlds. He's begun to be present in these journeys, which he never did before that I know of. So something is changing. Something has changed in the upper realities. It's beginning to change the way the lower realities are run. Ramu is standing closer to Earth in an orbit around Trellian, Opellums further out in space to my right, Perry's to my left. There's other beings here, Light C, who's a little Chinese guy known as the Faultless Guardian. He's standing to the right of Trellian, big Atma hovering above him, about 5'5" or so, short guy, thin, Fu Manchu type of beard, you know, one of these things comes down, and a maroon colored robe with esoteric symbols on it, little esoteric hat. It's a beautiful being. This being has an etheric body in the etheric plane, no lower bodies below that. And he works in the Hue Expansion Ray Academy in that big pyramid where the big tree of life is. He is the senior master teacher that instructs people in that and the use of the tree of life and all of that. He was the first one to volunteer to work when this place was being built. So that's who he is. Galactic Alliance personnel, who are actually Galactic Alliance personnel, the ones that work with us are master teachers. And Galactic Alliance personnel that have bodies, real bodies, on their homeworlds or in these Galactic Alliance spacecraft. It doesn't take them long to get from where they are in the Milky Way galaxy to Earth. They don't rely on radioactive warp cores like Star Trek or any kind of radioactive or nuclear power, which is only destructive. They use the energy of the omnipresent Hue itself to power their ships. They basically travel through it without the limits of the speed of light as you understand it. But they have to use that energy to go beyond physical limitations of physics, because that energy is not physical. Funny, isn't it? In the end, to be really free beings traveling the stars, we have to work with the one omnipresent power. We don't get anywhere. You're not going to get to another planet in a tin can full of rocket fuel and oxygen. They'll never go fast enough. They'll never go far enough. What advanced scientists on Earth call zero-point or toroidal energy, the energy of the universe, they know it's that whole area that appears black in a photograph. And it's just vast, little galaxies floating. They know it's not nuclear or atomic in nature. They know there's no atoms in it, just like us. They're going to have to learn on Earth how to work with that. And that's going to have to come from beings who know the technology and how to do it. It has to be given to us, or Earth's never going to get there. We have to work with other more advanced races if we want to play among the stars. And we have to be able to leave our bodies and go back to source while our bodies are alive if we want to be truly enlightened. In these English journeys, I'm a little more free to share the depth and width and breadth of some of this stuff. Because when Perry does such a great job of translating into Thai, we have to pause. She does more. Pause is just normal. We still get the job done. But in this way, you're getting a lot more. As you can see, this vortex spinning clockwise above Turelian, like an hourglass shape, big. There's a blue-green energy swirling around the outside of it. And this is simply a doorway that's been created by these beings so that we can go from where we are here in space, up through that vortex, bypass the lower worlds of time and space, where you each have bodies running, and go into at least the void. We're rubbing shoulders with the pure hue in that void, which is a barrier of energy between the lower worlds of time and space, where there's positive and negative stuff, and the upper realities that have no negative nature. It's called pure positive. We are made of energy that has no negative nature as beings that run bodies. We have never had a negative nature. We've never been negative, but we've been made to believe this, or to see this, or feel this when we look out into the universe, to know things again because of subconscious programming, brainwashing, whether it's religious or political, or off-world misuse of technology to trap us, kill us, stuff us in a body like revenge, like cowards, and make you reincarnate with no memory. They only do that to beings they can catch way out of the way where they should not be traveling, because Galactic Alliance personnel would stop them if they knew it was going on. That kind of thing has been going on for 500,000 years, since the last Great War came to an end in our galaxy. Out here in space in the hue, before we part on this journey, you know, in the hue itself, there's no, you can feel, there's no wars taking place out in our galaxy at all. All that's on Earth. The most unreliable, destructive, inharmonious groups of beings that exist in the universe today, that were once great, majestic, wonderful beings, live on Earth. They don't even remember how they got there. So it's only fair that they be brought out of that amnesia and returned to what they once were. Because from there, they can evolve further. It's very simple. We are not alone in the universe. It's not about faith or belief. It's about direct knowing. If we were alone in the universe, everybody on Earth would be dead now. Nuclear war would have been allowed to happen, instead of having launch computers shut down from space. They don't tell people this, but they know that's what happened when they tried to have a nuclear war. Out in space, there's also a circle of beings, kind of far apart, male and female, showing you a body, their atmas, surrounding us in a big sphere, maybe over 1,000 of them. And they're simply beings who are from all over creation, all over the Milky Way, different dimensions, who are joining us to join Satnam to go back above the void. And they are going to serve a session for a time in instructing in the different teaching facilities in the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, where we're going. So they're going with us, hitching a ride, so to speak. Any one of them could get there on their own, but when we're linked around each other like we are in the prime creator, the source itself, the nexus, then we have the wisdom of all these beings adding to the momentum of our journey. We're rubbing shoulders with them. They're telepathically running high volumes of the hue through their consciousness, right through us and between each other. And we're kind of in the middle of all this. So this is how we begin the journey. Turelian has his two thumbs up with closed fists, and there's a brighter golden light around them, like a small sphere of light just radiating. It's coming through the atma he is, from the white core down through his physical form he's showing you. You know, and it was immortalized. It means that they just dematerialized it and stored it in one of the teardrops of the atma. And when he wants to manifest it and show it to you as a real looking solid form, he just draws on the omnipresent hue, fills the form, and shows it to you. When he's done, he puts it away. He doesn't have the burden of feeding it or going to the bathroom or anything like that. There are beings who have joined us here out of body that have bodies that go to the bathroom and eat food and all that. But they generally also have an organ in their system that when they eat food, it turns it into light and then manifests it in all the nutrients the body needs. The more advanced human forms do not go to the bathroom because they draw their energy right from whatever it is they eat or from the source itself. Eating for them is a pleasure. It's not required. That is freedom. That's freedom each one of you once knew, long ago somewhere, in some form. Which means you don't have to re-experience, you don't have to experience it for the first time to understand it. You need to recover that you once did it. He's creating through an energy coming down through this vortex, which is a brighter form of the hue, surrounding us in a kind of an oval, transparent golden light, still brighter than the hue in space. And then we're moving upward, following Satnam as he recedes further up into that vortex and disappears up in the middle of it. And we suddenly find ourselves up in the middle of it, hearing the sound change inside this vortex from the sound of this soft thunder to a high note of a flute. It's playing a hauntingly beautiful melody and it's drawing us upward. And we reach the middle of this vortex. You can see through the transparent walls of this energy slowly moving around us, creating a doorway between earth, space, and the void. Doesn't go through the astral, causal, mental, or etheric. It bypasses them. So we can go rub shoulders with pure positive energy that has no negative nature. That's why we go back there. That's why it's important. And as we speed further upward in this light spaceship that Turellian's created, piece of cake for him, no problem at all. I add to it, I join him in this. I understand this stuff. Then you find yourself coming out the other end of this vortex and you look down and it vanishes below your feet. Your feet being a pure, perfect human type body standing below a sphere, which is the real you. Both are really you. One's a projection, but it's still fully aware and capable of smelling, tasting, touching, sensing, and being in telepathic communication. But it's not a physical body. It's not made of atoms. It's not DNA. It's a prototype form. So people think that God must be some guy on a throne somewhere. No. The Atma is what we really are, that people call soul without knowing it. It doesn't have a physical appearing shape. The projection, the pure form, is based on Satnam, the first prototype form of any human-looking appearing form. When you look around you now, you are in a pale blue, brilliant luminosity, but I call it pale blue to describe the texture of light. And it's everywhere around us in this sphere of beings, this oval light sphere like a spaceship. You can't see any solid form anywhere, no buildings, no palaces, no masters floating around, just this endless sea of light. It is a pure form of the hue. There are actually a race of beings in this that most beings never meet on their way up to the higher realities or back down. I have met with them. I had to pass a certain test to meet with them. It's a test where you look at something that looks like the creature from the Black Lagoon with gills, and it doesn't even look anywhere near human. And you have to immediately love and appreciate its unique nature. You have to pass a test. So they're there. They maintain this. You could call them kind of like silent mentors of a type. They maintain this barrier between the lower worlds of time and space, where people are nuts, and the upper worlds where they have no negative nature. Here's the kicker. We still live in the upper worlds. We never left. The rest is the multidimensional capability of an atma. It's not made of matter, so it can be in more than one place at one time. Threlling and I know can be in 7 places at the same moment and consciously know all 7 of those forms communicating with someone at the same moment. It's pretty advanced stuff. The reason he's hanging out with us is because he knows we have the same potential. He doesn't teach this with blackboard or a computer. We're telepathically linked to him. He teaches us this by running his awareness of it through us so we get used to it. We begin to be able to acquire it, duplicate it, wake it up, that kind of thing. And then Satnam's moving at tremendous speed further upward, and we're going right after him. And in the distance, you can see we're approaching a white, luminous beach. As we approach it, it spreads out. It's glowing a foot above the sand. It's curving as far as you can see it and slightly inward, which means it's circling a spherical landmass. The upper edge of the void, which takes a great deal of the hue, light, to cross. We have to have master guides to go with us to do it. We are now approaching the shore of a realm where all beings and animals and plants and things can work together from the whole lower dimensions, swap bodies, shift atmas from one to the other, and learn by direct experience what it's like to be an eagle, or a wolf, or a cow, or a dolphin, or a million other types of conscious living, what you would call animals who are far more evolved than humans. You can trade places with them there. It's vast. So you see this ocean glowing. And we find our toes wiggling on the sand. And you reach down, as Satnam's showing you, pick some of the sand up, you realize it's little round, polished diamond-like crystals, glowing, each one separately. And that just dissolves in your energy hand, goes up to your smiling face, into the white core of your being, makes it brighter in all the layers. This is a gift from Satnam. It's to remind you of your lives you've lived above the void. That's what this white diamond-like sand is for. It's a charge of energy. And then he moves over the top of these trees, which are transparent. You can see energy moving up and down them. Fruit trees and oak trees and those trees and this trees, beautifully arranged. And there's all these thousands of these birds that come out of the branches of these trees. Foot long with long V-shaped split tails. Rainbow-colored bodies, thousands of colors. Smoothly blended. Big eyes, blue. Kind of like a blue jay, but a foot long. Twin sets of bird wings above each other, like a dragonfly, but they hover like a hummingbird. And they're singing the hue. Male and female voices of the purest vocal cords you could ever imagine. They're intelligent, their atmas hovering above them, quite advanced. And they actually sing the energy together to maintain not only the void, but this Atma realm as well. They're kind of kindred to silent mentors, right? And then they part and go back to the trees. They just gave us a greeting because they sound like millions of men and women's voices singing the hue on multiple levels. And then as it blends into a single whole humming tone, they go back to the trees. Their job is done. And we move over the top of the trees until we look in the distance and see a diagonal, snow-covered bluestone mountain range. Bottom right up to the left side of our view. There's a fountain below our feet. It's a botanical garden, 15 feet across. Scalloped edges, white stone, like moonstone or ivory, or now And there's a statue of Satnam standing in it with his gold bracelets on his upper arms. He's standing beside it. He points to it, and he points to this palatial estate made of crystalline clear building structures. There's two big blue stone pillars laced with gold, holding up a pyramid top, and there's foot-thick golden quartz floors leading up to the opening, which is quite large. And there's a big blue stone quartz-like chair where someone could sit in it with smooth curved edges, no cushions. And there's a light coming down into this chair. It's being spread out through the walls. Now, Satnam never sits in it. I've never seen him sit in it. But it's basically his chair, but he doesn't sit in it. He doesn't need to. It functions automatically so he can do other things. Behind it is a pyramid opening, a triangular opening, and there's a huge fountain in a garden area on the other side at the base of the mountains. So we find ourselves approaching this big fountain. We pass the chair, we're going right through it. Satnam's still leading the way. We're still in this oval light sphere of beings. And then there's this energy of a blue-green golden nature that's flowing upward in a spiral from the base of this mountain with scalloped edges upwards to a point. It's holding this form like water. There's a white golden light coming down into it and is moving through it and up and back through it. The sound of this single note is still calling to us, and then it becomes a higher sound. And we find ourselves moving into this fountain water, and then we're shot upward. As you're looking through this water moving upward, you see we're moving high up above the realm of Satnam. You can see it's vast. Out in the distance, you can see whole beaches that curve around different colored oceans. Lands, pasteurized lands, animals more foraging in grass, pretending to eat, really. Birds of exotic natures flying through the air. Animals, human and others, interacting together, talking with each other, speaking with each other. They have vocal cords. There's Atmas hovering above all of them. And you see these beings switch places between a human and, say, a giraffe, or a cow, or an eagle. And then they get to experience what it's like to be that type of being, with much higher intelligence, of course. And they return to their own form, and this is what they do there. It's a way this Atma plane teaches beings to respect all life, because all the things that are living in the lower worlds of time and space and that exist beyond here are represented here. So we can experience them in one location. And then we go up further and we suddenly come out of another opening which looks like a donut of cobalt blue stars. We shoot through the opening and it vanishes below us, and now we're looking into the distance and we see what is called the Hue Expansion Ray Academy. It is a massive circular land floating in a cobalt blue atmosphere. If you focus, you can see the golden light of the hue supporting this blue light in it, mixed with it. And way in the distance is this huge floating landmass all by itself in this whole field of energy that goes on forever. No stars, no planets, no moons, no suns. No, not needed, because we all produce our own light here. The mountains, the vortex, the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, what's on it, is all held in place by silent mentors. They are the ones who maintain form, mechanics of creation. When we look at the center of this land, there are 6 snow-covered mountain peaks, way into the center of it. Blue stone, kind of snow-covered. It surrounds a white island, circular, and a blue-green luminous lake. There's a blue glass administration tower that comes up from that island to a oval sphere, an administrative center, and up to a minaret point. There's a fountain in it. There's no statue of Satnam here. There's an energy coming down into this tower from the point that you can see goes up into this blue atmosphere, and it comes into this reality through an opening, kind of like a little whirling opening. So we're going to go into the top of that energy as a group. And then we're shot upward. Sterling's still got his thumbs up. He's still maintaining this focus for us. And we find ourselves, the next stop, moving up through one level after another. Many. Higher and higher energy. Less and less physical form of any recognizable shape. Beings floating around. Majestic. Huge spherical atmosphere here and there. And then we end up coming out into a fiery world. A world of orange and green and yellow and blue and green fire moving and swirling, coming out of the ground and disappearing. It's just everywhere. There's a big silver tree in the distance. A giant fir-like tree. It has big roots coming down from it and going disappearing into this fiery light like it's ground, but it's not. The top of this tree cannot be seen. It goes into the mists above. And a huge being approaches us. This guy's big. He's bigger than a silent mentor. It's just beautiful. Has layers of finer light. I can't explain it. This is Agam Purusha. And he is the being who regulates the raw power you see here and channels it down into the lower planes through different doorways. And he maintains this power behind all creation. It's a pretty lofty character. So he's approaching us, and we're just hovering in a group of beings around Turelian. That bubble of energy around us is gone. The 1,000 master teachers have stopped off in the U Expansion Ray Academy to do their job. And he welcomes us, and I'm with you, because mostly if you didn't have this kind of guidance, this guy would terrorize you. You can't bring fear here, but some part of your being would be shaking at its boots, because first thing I did when I met with him is befriend him. I wanted to be his buddy. I really did. I knew he didn't have many that had the courage to be friends with him. So I would recommend it highly. If you want to be friends with this guy, just tell him. He gets more friends, he's a happier being. What can I say? They don't suffer like beings in the lower worlds. They don't get sad or any of that. But friends are friends. And he points to this tree. And we find ourselves as a group around Turelian, moving right through the branches, passing right through them. Every single needle on every branch has a world in it, or a location somewhere in the lower worlds. Including, in the beginning of these branches, you can see the Atma plane and all those oceans and all those critters represented in these little needles. As we pass further in towards the trunk, there's a roaring energy racing up and down the trunk of this tree. Pure hue. It comes from the next place we're going. It comes from the source or prime creator itself. And we must pass through Agam Purusha and receive his permission to go into the source itself. That's his job. He's already given us that, or we wouldn't be heading into the trunk. When we enter the trunk of the tree, the energy passes through us is roaringly powerful. We're Atmas. It passes through the white core of our being, leaves a little something behind, but it doesn't harm us. These aren't physical bodies we're playing with here. And we shoot up this trunk of this tree and come out the other end. Now you're looking into a much brighter cobalt blue universe. The light is brilliant, makes you squint if you had eyes. But the Atma sees like that, especially with the form. The form you have that looks human is not here. Only the Atma can journey here, the pure form itself. When you look in the distance, you see a single galaxy turning on its axis. And it looks like a silver golden galaxy, like made of billions of stars, right? But you see in the center, there's a huge sphere of something hovering above a white island in a void inside the center of it. And we're moving right between some of these beings, these arms of this galactic nature. The sound coming from the source is like millions of orchestras with exotic instruments playing the most beautiful sound you could ever imagine. Cannot be described in human terms. And we're moving through whole beings. The space between them is so vast we just move right through them until we come into this void. And then we suddenly find ourselves hovering together in front of what looks like an Atma like you, but much, much larger. A white core, many layers of teardrop, multiple colors beyond anything you see on Earth. And this is a place where all beings that exist in all of creation, through all the planes, running animal bodies, plants, planets, everything, it meets in a telepathic center. And it has a presence that you can speak with, like a deep male voice with a feminine quality. It's hard to describe. But it is not a single being. You don't worship it. You experience it. You respect it and each other. That's the only way we get here. And then you hear it welcome you. It has a little joke. It says, about time. Because to it, there is no time. And we've been playing around the lower worlds unconscious for billions of years. So a return to this center is important because we begin to become conscious co-creators, trustworthy with this source energy. And we're going to bring that knowledge, that understanding back with us to Earth. And we find ourselves suddenly out in the western roadway of the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, many planes below here. We cannot stay in the source energy long. It's too far removed from running physical bodies, and they would perish if we stayed too long there. It's not necessary, because what you need to understand is that an aspect of you is still there, circling around that center. Never left. And we find ourselves moving past the beach and the western roadway. You can see the 6 snow-covered mountains way in the distance, and the tower, the Hue Expansion Ray Administration Tower. And we're going out into the ocean until that whole Hue Expansion Ray Academy dwindles to a point and disappears. We're going way out into this pure energy. This was created between the 6th realm and the top of Satnam's realm. It's a teaching facility, as you know. The teaching facilities like the one Light C inhabits is down the western roadway, the first turn to the right, and there's a big silver tree inside it. It's connected to the big tree of life up in Agam Purusha's realm. It's a doorway between the two. So it's a teaching facility about respecting all life, right? And Master Light C is quite adept at getting this across to people. So we're out in this ocean of light. And Torellian, we're circling around. I was just opening, was moving our hands, and we open up like a spinning drain of blue, luminous water. It's not water, because that ocean that surrounds the shore of the Hue Expansion Ray Academy is not water. And neither are we, physical matter. And then we find ourselves dropping down peacefully right down this whirling vortex until we come out above the planet Zetranami 1, located near the galactic center of the Milky Way galaxy. A big world, 4 times bigger than Earth. Beautiful light coming from the atmosphere and from the golden colored ocean and sands that surround several continents, because it has no polar ice caps. There are 3 worlds the size of Earth circling and orbiting it, with dome cities on them, pyramid shapes and crystalline structures, landscapes and garden waterfalls you can't believe they're way beyond Earth. And then out in the distance you can see we're approaching the planet, but we see that it's these planets, the big one and the 3 moons, are circling or orbiting a trinary sun system. 3 suns. Big blue one, big young hot white giant, big yellow one, brighter and much larger than Earth's sun, and a smaller one circling outside of that. This is called a trinary sun system. The reason the planets have no polar ice caps is because of the effect of those suns. So the genetic forms that are on these worlds are far more evolved than on Earth. And we see ourselves hovering above a long, white, glittering dome, translucent, almost transparent. Thin pyramid shapes, waterfalls, rock waterfalls, and garden trails between. Out in the distance, you see the curve of a golden beach and a luminous golden ocean. The water's glowing because on normal worlds, H2O glows. It's charged with the hue. So the waterfalls will have a glow. There's beings walking around, and we're going to go right inside the top of this dome with Turellian and hover near the ceiling to look down on the meeting of the Galactic Alliance Council, the Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds. There are 5,000 men and women, all different kind of races. Some human, some bipedal, not human, snake-like skin, all kinds of things. Many humanoid and human types. Atmos hovering above all of them. They're standing up from their white leather-like chairs in 15 tiers of white marble flooring that circle a disc-shaped blue stage about a foot thick. Trillian's standing on it. And they can see us hovering up there. They know we're there. They represent 450 million world systems, these 5,000 people. They've changed since Turellian first made his appearance here before them. This is where I met him, here. And he is woven into the chronicles of the Sayre's Agenda book. There's a special technique section at the back of that book dealing with this and the hue. What we do on these journeys goes considerably beyond what's revealed in those books, but they are a series of steps that lead to where we are now. Turellian is opening he's just standing there, and he opens his hands, and this big book appears in his hands. There's a white golden light coming down through the top of the dome, of course, from where we just came. And the book's like 8 feet long. I mean, this guy's big. He's 18 feet tall, 6 feet long. And he opens it up. It's got this blue gray metallic pages made of some kind of metal. He flips open the pages, and there's these hieroglyphic golden letters moving across line after line. You can't read them like words. And so he tells all of us, if we want to know the truth we were made to forget, just open your heart and let a beam of this energy come off these letters and enter each one of you. This is also being done for the Galactic Alliance Council members as well, whenever he appears, to help them go further. And then we understand it. We just went from the place where things exist before this existed. Turellian's race are many billions of years old. Human, 12-stranded they had. We have 2. We have Sayre's DNA in us. Most of these races, in fact all of them, that are spacefaring, in this and many galaxies, here in the astral plane, have Sayre's DNA. They're ancient. Their teachers are silent mentors. So you'll get the drift of what they're like. And so we get to experience respectfully who these beings are, because we need them if we're going to fix this planet. Without them, forget it. You might as well bend over and kiss your ass goodbye. I'm sorry to say it that way. Without their help, people will destroy themselves. Most people want an Armageddon to happen on this planet, because they think it's going to give them some kind of free reign or free ride to heaven. This is not true. Life on Earth has been destroyed many times in 65 million years, since the dinosaurs, the big ones, were made extinct. Now, that history you once knew. The Sayre's Agenda is about life we're doing now. The Parallel Time Trilogy books are about life in the Galactic Alliance visiting our solar system back 100,000 years ago and what happened. It's a history you once knew. It's a history you need to recover. And we find ourselves wiggling our toes in emerald green sand. Somewhere else. The same physical form you have that you show each other telepathically, and the Atma hovering above it. And there's Ambassador Trellian standing up to his knees in this calm blue-green ocean water. And there's this emerald green beach, big curve, big jungle behind it. And you're out in space looking at this planet, and you realize there's two big continents on this Earth. It is Earth. It's in the third higher parallel dimension, still in the physical universe. Higher molecular time rate. And you can see that this planet Earth has a moon circling it that turns on its axis with atmosphere, little oceans, rivers, dome cities. It's alive, turning on the axis as it orbits the planet, like it should. In the distance, the sun and the billions of stars, the galaxy. But this is a little higher up in frequency, still in the physical universe. Wiggling our toes on the sand comes up, you pick up in your hand, it's just like it was in the white sandy beach around the Hugh Expansion Ray Academy. These little polished spherical emeralds go into your hand, up the top of your head, into the core of your being, out to the green area. It begins to kind of blink on and off certain teardrops. Help you get used to things that are stored there. These have been dormant for a long time, not used. And it goes out through the layers, passes through the outer surface of our being, and then it goes out into the atmosphere of this planet. And then down through the planet and into the core of Earth that you're familiar with. And then it goes into 3 pyramids there and goes out through them into space. So you see, we're being conscious, trustworthy co-creators with Source by helping this happen. You can see in the distance a single snow-crowned mountain. Off to the right in the jungle, several miles beyond us, straight as an arrow, brown, moss-covered, luminous path, and a single dome covering a city, a small, well, the dome's big, but there's 3 golden-sided pyramids in the back third with quartz caps. A semicircular mountain range with little waterfalls flowing down the sides out of cavern openings that was put there for the aesthetic pleasure of the people who work there. It goes down into forms into a blue-green oval lake, little ivory white dome dwellings and little pathways. And in the distance, at the base of these 3 pyramids, is a long ivory dome, kind of, about a third of the size of the pyramids. And that's experimental areas. Opellum's standing on one of the paths. We find ourselves standing on one of these paths in the dome. And he's simply pointing out, waving his hand, his little webs between his fingers, his beautiful pale blue skin, black hair black to his shoulders, emerald green eyes, his little gill slits under his neck, because this body form who he brings here is stationed on Oceania. That's on the other side of the galaxy, third higher parallel dimension up, just like this world. The Say Rays work here. Galactic Alliance scientists work here. And volunteers from many realities, because this has been around for ancient times. There's no negative nature in the atmosphere. The waters are all charged. They glow like the waterfall pouring out of a cavern opening 2/3 of the way up the mountainside, drops down a clear cliff face, disappears in the blue, slightly green forest trees, and dumps into that ocean. And we find ourselves standing on this beach again, wiggling our toes in this emerald green sand. This is a gift from a couple that's standing before us, over 10 feet tall. Antalis Freshenmuntis, they're from a planet called Zeontarnaman 1. It's in the physical universe parallel where Earth is, you're familiar with, on the other side of the galaxy. And they brought this kind of energy here as a gift. It is energy that helps us remember our lives in the lower dimensions of time and space, the ones that matter, the ones that are constructive. The wisdom contained in them is what we want to awaken. And you find yourselves near the ceiling, above your ceiling in your home. This man and woman are still beside you. And they vanish. And there's a golden white light coming down through you, the spherical being, and through the form you're showing that looks perfect, down into your sitting body, out into the electromagnetic field around it. It goes to 3 pyramids on Earth. 2 at the bottom of Earth's deepest oceans, 1 inside a hollowed out interior in the Himalayas, and it goes to a big pyramid stationed between 2 stable asteroids, floating between them in the asteroid field that circles in the orbit of what was a planet between Mars and Jupiter in our solar system. And then it's beamed all the way back through a series of devices to the center of the galaxy, goes up the white golden shaft, returns to source where we just came from. So source energy is flowing through us for our benefit, but it's also flowing onward elsewhere for the benefit of others. So we're back, and when you're ready, open your eyes. Now, I could do this a half an hour, but you'd never gain the benefits you're getting from this one. It takes a little discipline, but you're all capable of it. We're going to endeavor to keep these to an hour. I just haven't been able to do it yet. There's just so much to share with you. The whole point of this is so that you begin to be able to visualize these trips you've been on. Go with a master, whatever one you've met on this journey, and go and explore these things, like some of these animals in the Satnam's realm. You can bring back the awareness of how to really love and respect life. It changes us. If you start loving the atmas that run animal bodies, your consciousness on earth will change in good ways. I do not recommend that you try to do something like be a vegetarian, overnight or anything like that, because that kind of thing, if you're not, comes about naturally, a little at a time. You just change. You don't have to try to give anything up. I hope everybody understands that. These are gradual, productive, balanced changes. I could say that the hue knows what it's doing, but the source itself and the few dimensions that are above it, we didn't visit today, knows more about what to do with the lower worlds as we return to it to deliver our part in creating a change. It requires us to return because we're part of that God, that supreme being, if you will. Individuals forever within a huge ocean of this same energy. That's what we are. If any of you have any questions now from the journey, just feel free to voice them or ask them, and we'll do our best to answer them. Okay, first I'm going to bring this recording to a close because it's going to be a little bit long.